Okay guys, now we're on to the chemical service section, okay? Remember on this one you have, first you're gonna start off with preparation only and then they'll let you know when you go into each one, but it is okay to have everything in that one bag. So at this time, you're just able to prep for the chemical service. You have 10 minutes. So do not forget before you even grab this bag to open it, always sanitize your hands first, okay? Do that, then you can grab your hands and ready to go. Pull everything out and set it up. So step 1 tells us to sanitize, clean our hands, so make sure we do that. Then step 2 is going to tell us to prepare our mannequin for the service. So the way we will do that is chemical draping, towel, cape towel. And just make sure you have your chemical towel in here. You guys can use clips if you want to hold those towels together. If not, you can just knot them and they stay on pretty well. I know some of you guys prefer those T-pins, so whatever works for you, just as long as she stays draped. So towel, cape, and our second towel. Now it tells us to divide the hair into 4 uniform sections. So starting off, first take your profile section, so going all the way from the forehead back to the nape. Then from there, take your radial section and then clip off each 4 of those sections that you will create. So just make sure to make everything nice and clean and neat, okay? Keep those partings. Sorry, did I say sections earlier? I meant partings if I didn't say partings. My bad. Okay, after you have sectioned into those 4 sections, now you can apply the protective cream. So that is what this popsicle stick is in there for. Get enough so that you don't have to, so you can do it all with that one amount that's on the stick, sorry. If you do have to go back into that container, make sure you use another clean popsicle stick so that we're not double dipping and contaminating our container. And don't forget to put that lid on after you've gotten your portion out. You can use the stick. I prefer to use my fingers for this application. And just outline the whole perimeter of that hairline. Make sure you get the top of the ears also. Clean that off of me. Now, once you have done that, you will have your gloves. Now you can put those on. And at that point, you stop. That's what your 10 minutes is on. Do not move on. Remember, each one of these sections, they tell you when you're allowed to go on to the next one. The nice thing about this is if you're testing with a group of really fast people, everybody finishes within the 4 to 5 minutes and you move on to the next one. But if you have that one person who takes that full time, just stand back and just wait patiently till they tell you to go to the next step. So I kind of wrote our steps out here for us. So we did chemical surface prep, which once again was 10 minutes. Now it's time to do the foil highlight application. Remember, this is not timed. We only have to do 2. It can either be slice or weave, your choice. The easiest one on this one would be to do 2 slices. Now you don't have to leave a section of hair in between. You can do a foil on top of a foil. So they'll tell you when to begin this foil application. So you will grab your mock high lift product and the brush for that, and have your foils ready. So it's not specific on which quadrant you have to do the application in. For the foils, I tell you guys to choose one of the back 2 quadrants. Just because these quadrants are a lot longer, I would save those other 2 applications for these 2 that are a little bit smaller sections there. So pick either one of the back ones. First thing that I'm doing is I'm sectioning off so I don't have to deal with that weird little triangle area, so I can have something nice and smooth and straight. Whether you want to section with the tip of your color brush or with that rat tail comb or foiling comb, up to you. There's no right or wrong. Now the one thing I will suggest to do is, obviously a slice is going to be the easiest to do. So take a very nice thin subsection, more like 1/8 of an inch. So the tip of this rat tail comb right here, that is roughly about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, it'll ensure that you don't make a section too big so you don't have that product that seeps out. And you guys may prefer to have a duckbill comb or something like that. Whatever you work with easiest and fastest, your choice. Okay, just make sure that your subsections are very, very clean and neat. So place your foil down. Remember, starting off, stay about 1/2 inch away when you first put that amount of product down, just so that you don't accidentally get too much and it globs out. Then from there, go from the edge of that foil and bring that product down. Working nice, clean, and neat. Don't sit here and swirl all this hair around and tangle it. Keep everything very, very neat and clean. Okay, make sure that foil is up all the way. Everything's saturated. And keep everything, once again, clean and neat. I like to do one foil right on top of the other. It also helps me so I'm not moving that foil around, and it can stay still and nice and neat. So once again, make a very, very thin subsection, like I said, about 1/8 of an inch. Place your foil down. Once again, don't grab a whole bunch of product so that you have it spewing everywhere. Start about 1/2 inch away. Then from there, move that product up so you have control. Then take it from the scalp all the way down to the ends. So the only 2 criteria on that, the 2 points on that section were to slice or weave the hair strands and then apply a high lift product. So at that point, you would just stop and wait to move on to your next section. Okay, now our next section is the no base virgin relaxer. This one is timed for 10 minutes. So we're going to be taking, I know your PSI doesn't give you this note on there, but the subsections on that Virgin Relaxer are 1/2 inch. So if you need to write this down to remind yourself, it's 1/2 inch away from the scalp and 1 to 2 inches away from the porous ends. And then each subsection is going to be 1/2 inch thick. So most people's average pinky width of the nail is around 1/2 inch. Okay, if you have really, really big fingers, it may be a little bit smaller than that, but that can kind of give you a guesstimate of how far you're going to stay away from the scalp. Okay, there's also, if you have this standard comb, the numbers along there tell you in inches. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's your 1 inch mark. So halfway between there's your 1/2 inch measurement also. So you can kind of double check yourself. So whether you start top, bottom, diagonal back, diagonal forward, horizontal sections, it's not specific. Just as long as each subsection is 1/2 inch, we're staying 1/2 inch away from the scalp and staying 1 to 2 inches away from our porous ends. I find it easier just to work from the bottom up, but whatever is easiest and fastest for you, do it. Okay, so on this one, you are going to get your Mock No Base Hydroxide Relaxer and grab your separate color brush that you have set out for that. Once again, you can do your slices using your color brush or your comb, whatever you prefer. Okay, keep everything nice, clean, and neat. We don't want no zigzag partings. So stay about 1/2 inch from the scalp. And if you choose to stay 1 inch away from the ends, make sure it's consistently 1 inch away on every single subsection that you're taking. Make sure you're fully saturating each section, that you don't leave any dry spots. Working nice and clean and neat, and still letting those subsections be seen every time you're laying down a section. Don't push them into each other, okay? Now, this is where that third towel comes into play. Keep your hands clean so you don't get any product where you don't need it. Now, while you're doing this, if you happen to get product on your mannequin's face, just like you would on a normal client, stop, grab a towel, clean it up, and move on, okay? Don't leave her nice and messy. Once again, 1/2 inch from scalp. And whether you're choosing 1 to 1.5 inches away from your ends. Some of you may prefer to do one of these back quadrants, and that's fine. Just as long as you're taking the correct subsections and applying it, it really doesn't matter which quadrant you're in. And remember, you can do diagonal back, horizontal, diagonal forward. It's not specific on there. Whatever can make you work or helps you work the fastest and easiest. Product, I'm using conditioner. You can use cholesterol, conditioner, gel. There isn't a specific product to use. I just prefer using the cholesterol or conditioner because you can see the saturation better to me. Sometimes with the gel, I can't tell if I did saturate that section or not. And at least with something creamier, I can see it a lot easier, and the proctor won't question on if I left a dry spot or not. But once again, it's more just personal preference. So I'll reiterate, 1/2 inch from scalp and 1 to 2 inches away from the porous ends. And like I said before, if you choose to stay 2 inches away, make sure it's each subsection you're staying 2 inches away. Not one staying 1 inch, the other one staying 2, and alternating that around. Make sure everything stays consistent. So on this one, the criteria says to, number 1 says apply relaxer product for the virgin application. Remember, this is the virgin application. Once all this mid shaft or cold shaft would process, then you'd come back around and apply the product to the scalp and ends. You do not have to do that. We're just applying to this mid shaft, okay? Then step 2 tells us to demonstrate smoothing hair on one subsection. Okay, this is actually me smoothing that hair, okay? So just make sure you at least do that once. Another way to smooth the hair, you can use the tail of your comb or your color brush. And I'll do that one just at the very end. So if for some reason that proctor didn't catch me while I was doing this, running my fingers through it and smoothing it up, they'll at least see that last one. So I'll make sure I will get both of those points. One more thing to remind you guys, remember we're working on a round surface, okay? So sometimes we're focused here about that 1/2 inch and we over direct everything from the front back, and then you tend to start staying further and further away and it starts turning to like 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So just make sure that you're consistently staying with that application, okay? Almost done. And remember, when you're applying that product, don't run your brush up and down. Move in the same direction. Keeps everything cleaner and neater. So we're to our last section. If you accidentally get the scalp, clean it up so that you'll show that you're staying that 1/2 inch away. Or if you accidentally get it on the ends, make sure you wipe off that product. Okay, so that's a way of smoothing. And then the other way of smoothing that I was talking about would be literally me doing something like that. Okay, so that would complete that section. So once you do that, step back. Before you step back on each section, just make sure that you're checking to make sure that she's staying nice and clean. So now we are able to move on to the last portion of this section. This one is our relaxer retouch. Once again, this one is timed, okay? So we're pretending that she has 2 inches of new growth. So we're only applying 2 inches from the scalp and still taking our 1/2 inch subsections, okay? So wait for them to tell you to begin. So you'll get your mock hydroxide relaxer retouch and the brush that you have for that. So earlier I told you the tip of this is like 1/8 of an inch. Our pinky was more like 1/2 inch, okay? If I'm using this wider